Hey guys, it's Matt. Thanks to everybody that emailed me about this. Here it is. Spike Lee removes conspiracy theories from final chapters of NYC Epicenters 9/11 to 2021 and a half after outcry. No edits have been made to earlier episodes. What? No edits have been made to an earlier episode that featured conspiracy theories of Flight 93. Okay. Well, I think still only episode one is out. So it's supposed to be four parts. I don't know what he's going to say about Flight 93. I mean, look, guys, it's very simple. Of course, y'all know this. The old guard is like yawning. Um, if this is happening, it was always, of course, it was always meant. I'm going to sneeze. It was always meant to happen. Um, it was always meant to happen. There was no Spike trying to put anything in and an outcry and a re-examination, and we're going to need to go back and emergency re-edit this. Everything, of course, everything here is part of a giant script, and a script way, way larger than if there's one thing you guys are probably getting tired of me saying, and I'm never going to stop saying it because there's a huge percentage that just even in this community that can't see past it. It's way, way, way would be beyond what regular men and women could pull off and do. It's just not possible. So, yes, on the ground, the minions, they're carrying out tactics, and Spike is doing things, and the editors really went back and re-edited. And, who knows how much of that was part of their plan to, as usual, harm the truth community. Probably a few other reasons. But I'm saying it's more like the as above, so below thing. They they act out, or they almost probably believe it's their own ideas, and it's not. It's something. It's coming from. I know it's not a great description. I call it the screen. I say reality itself. Well, man, that's a cop out. What is that? Well, no. Who's ever going to figure that out? Who's going to figure that out? A Christian may say Satan. I doubt they've ever walked around a corner and seen Satan doing something in their it just because you can't witness it directly, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I'm talking about the way I talk about when I say the reality itself is accomplishing this, or the screen. The minions are animated in some way, like automatons, and they might get an inspiration to do something where they think it's them and it's not them. I don't, how else, what exactly is motivating them? What exactly is the screen? How are we ever going to know? I'm just saying I will never ever stop, you know, I want to say, I don't know how to say this because I don't know exactly what the screen is, or what is animating these minions, but I'm not going to stop, I guess, reminding people that, in my opinion, it's far, far beyond the coordination of men and women. And the most fascinating thing about this reality to me, guys, is the Goldilocks nature of it. It gives itself away, the Goldilocks nature of it. And here we go again, meaning it's it's just enough to give the truth community something to latch on to. Excuse me. But there's just not enough there where you can't do anything with it. It's always Goldilocks, just regular people that I guess the think tanks and the Rand Corporation meeting in the back room. Are you going to order out lunch? Yeah, order me a turkey sub. This is regular men and women. Yeah, extra oil and mayo. And then it doesn't. I don't mean to get gross, but it doesn't quite sit right, and then they run to the John, and that's a limited being. Okay, that we are limited in this incarnation. When we're here, of course, we're limited. It doesn't mean you're not part of something incredibly that you can't even fathom. But while we're here, let's face it. I mean, it is new agey, the people that run around and say, I'm God here. Well, you might be of the divine, of the source. When you're here, you ain't no. You're limited. We're limited. If I have one little, like Scrooge said, I have one little bit of Jacob Marley, you may be a bit of bad beef. If I have, I'm, run to the pot or something. I mean, I don't mean to get gross, but it's just we are limited beings here, and the minions, they're in the same avatar. They're limited. They can't pull all this stuff off. So look at the Goldilocks nature of what's even happening with Spike. I mean, so okay, I guess the segment of the truth community that believes that when they got wind that Spike was going to release all this conspiracy, oh, they were probably many people were probably excited about it. Maybe the QAnon faction that, oh, we're finally going to have somebody in the mainstream, and then I can go back to all the family and friends that poo-pooed me and said conspiracy theorists and all this, and I can finally show them and get them to think differently. So then they hear, no, it's being pulled. So the Goldilocks, it's perfect Goldilocks again, and it always is perfect Goldilocks. So it gives both sides something that they think they got to win, or they think there's something to hold on to, but there isn't. So the QAnon conspiracy people, many will still go and say, well, wait a second, look at this article. Spike had to pull. He had all this 9/11 conspiracy stuff, and I'm talking about in the context of Spike. And what Spike, the bot knows exactly what I'm talking about. It wants this story to go all over the world, of course. So why would it have a problem with me, not saying the 7-Eleven job application? If you see what I'm saying, in the context of Spike Lee's HBO documentary, I want to say that very clearly for the bot. The Hollywood Reporter here is talking about Spike Lee's HBO documentary. Um, it's the QAnon people will still take the articles back to their friends and neighbors and family and say, look, he had to pull all this stuff. It still supports our position. But from the person getting that email, or if I were to send that to Tony, he would, of course, find a way to always tune his frequency back to the official narrative. I'm not saying this stuff will never come out someday, but it's almost like a little test and a drawback. It's like little tests for the sentient world simulation. Put this out, draw it back. So if I were to send this to Tony, this Hollywood Reporter article, and I would say, Tony, look, Spike Lee, this is if we were, a devolved sense of truth, or not, where we were 5 or 7 or 8 years ago. I'd say, Tony, look, um, Spike was going to talk about all this conspiracy. It's all on record here, and he had to pull it out. Doesn't that doesn't that lead credence to everything I've told you over the years? And it would be Goldilocks. It would be just enough to still get us excited. And we have the Hollywood Reporter articles and all these stuff saying Spike pulled all this stuff out of the episode 4. And from Tony's perspective, he would be like always. The tuning would always take him back to it would his own self or sense of self would always retune to the frequency. If it would draw you back in, draw him back in like a black hole. If you know, I don't believe in black holes, but that's not the point. Um, he would say, well, what was really? We don't know, Matt, what was going to be in there. I mean, maybe there was something controversial, but no one will at this point will ever know what's in there. So just because there's an article telling me Spike had to pull something out, I'm supposed to then bow down to you, Matt, and believe everything you've ever told me about this thing that happened in 2001, or the way you see it. It wouldn't phase. They wouldn't change their position, and we wouldn't change our position. It's Goldilocks. And this might not be the best example of Goldilocks, but it happens this way all the time. And if you see how this is Goldilocks, and maybe again, if this might not be the best example, but in terms of, somebody might say, well, how do you get from here to jumping to a you saying, Matt, the reality is not very real. How do you jump? That's a bold statement, jumping that far, because we've seen these tactics where it ends up exactly Goldilocks. We've seen it now 10,000 times if you add up every little bit. So, no, maybe the people that are meeting in the back rooms in the secret societies, maybe they're going to get it exactly right, 10 times on 10 major events, not 1,000 or thousands of times. Um, you can throw a dart in anything. Vroom. Oh, it's Blue Origin, the hot water heater, um, the little hot water heater that could. Blue Origin and Jeff Bezos. We see that we have dropped veils. We see somebody walks around a corner. We see Matrix code in addition to somebody walking around the corner. We're a little bit different here than the guy down your cul-de-sac, but we just see it as absolutely absurd. Now, in the beginning, excuse me, sorry. In the beginning, I pondered that, well, maybe maybe he did go up and do, not that it would go into space or anything like that, of course not, but maybe these people did go up to 100,000 feet in this thing, like a glorified Six Flags ride. I mean, what would be the big deal? It could have maybe they, but the fact that then in the beginning they didn't show any footage or anything like that. They didn't make sure it was properly faked. um, and maybe they did get in this thing and go up. If anything were to happen, the parachutes would come down. It's like it's no different than Superman the Escape ride from the Ventura Six Flags. So, but then the video comes out of them. What was her name? The 80-some-year-old woman or whatever. It doesn't matter. Floating around up there, and of course it was all and they wouldn't. Somebody might. I hear you talking to me saying, well, they wouldn't put the CEO of Amazon. You still have liquid fuel to go up to 100,000 feet, even though it's just 50,000 feet more than a 747 flies. It still would be somewhat risky. I agree, but the point is, at some point, whether it be the moment they stepped off the hot water heater or a day or two later, we saw through it. We just saw through it. I mean, it was a joke. The presentation was comical. He gets out with his cowboy hat. I mean, no matter what little bit we agree or disagree was real or not, the whole thing is a fake presentation from the not milk reality. Okay, now we see that clearly, but what does Tony see, my friend, or your friends, or your family, or my uncle that is just my uncle and my cousin are in love with Elon Musk. They believe every bit of his genius, and they went out and they signed up the first day to wait in line for a Tesla or put it on a waiting list. I think it took like 10 months to get the car or something. I don't know. I guess they've had the car like 2 or 3 years, or one of these Tesla models. They both put themselves on waiting lists, and they're enamored by what SpaceX does. And they would see. I didn't talk to them specifically about the well, the hot water heater went up. That the hot water heater landed on its own, but then the top part popped popped its wad off where and that just floated down with Jeff Bezos with parachutes. That's real functional. The parachute lands 40 miles down the road. That's real functional for reusable space travel. Not that, it doesn't go anywhere. I don't think anybody goes anywhere. You know my thoughts on that, guys. And by the way, guys, I'm sure there was a few people in the last video that was on Free Voice where I was talking about um, I was talking about Flight 11 and talking about Flight 175. I'm sure there were some people going, "You, I spent so much time with this channel. He believes that there was these flights. He believes that the Muhammad ATTA was a real. I no, obviously I don't want to spend too much time on this. You could see the way I was presenting it. I was introducing myself, saying my name is Matt. I've had two YouTube channels. It wasn't made that part of it was not made for you guys. It was made in such a way that if you wanted to show it to somebody that was getting a little curious, it was in and it was made for that. It was made so you could show it to somebody because no matter where you are in truth or normie or wherever, it's still absolutely unfathomable if you go through all the groups that should have had access to thousands of cameras that produced nothing on that day. It should be kind of remarkable to anybody. So that's the way I did it. Obviously, I can't. If I were to mention a super conspiracy in the first minute, the somebody trying to show it to somebody, would be like, "What?" They just turn it off and walk away. Of course. Anyway, so the Goldilocks, like my friend Tony, the Jeff Bezos presentation would be just good enough where they would think we're crazy or I'm crazy for doubting it. Matt, we've been going into space since this is exactly what they would say, since 1969. You know, they should be doing much more than what they're doing. Why would you think a test flight with Jeff Bezos? Why would you think that's fake, Matt? There's something wrong with you. You know that it's right now. It might not, again, not a great example, but oh man, I should have probably filmed this a little bit later. I didn't just wake up either, but maybe it's one of those days. You can get some allergy and pollen days in the fall even. Um, it wouldn't be enough for them to they would still be rooted in their position, and we would still be rooted in our position. And it's the same here with Spike's editing of part four. And if, of course, if Spike edited part four, it was whoever got the genius idea to roll this out to us. It was it was our part of the initial idea. Nobody changed anything up on the fly. So, guys, with that being said, let's talk about something far more important. I don't think this video will be very long, but I've said that before. Um, excuse me. I'll be come right back. Just a little. All right, let's talk about something way more important than getting bogged down in this nonsense. You know, I'm always saying that in terms of the wake up process or the process that we go through, it starts out very strange, then it gets very complicated, and then it gets very simple. Where I'm talking about the half page, and I'm thinking about the half page. You could write a half page, and I don't think once you come out of the bog, that's all you need to know about how reality works and what your life is for in this reality system. And I guess if I keep talking about a half page, I should read my half page or introduce it more, and I will start doing that if it's only a half page because it'll be refined over time. But the point of this segment is, I thought, well, we don't ever go far enough, and why would it just be a half page? Why shouldn't it be refined into one sentence? Break down, Matt, break down what life is for, all of reality, what your experience in this incarnation is for, in a freaking sentence? You must be out of your goddamn mind. No, it probably can be broken down in a sentence. It's kind of like part of the life journey, the life test is to once it gets that's how they catch or they put the bait on the hook and how they catch truthers. They make it so complicated. Oh, the reality itself sees these people are going down this path. Look at that. Oh, well, give them the usual suspects. Yeah, give them the endless complication, the endless complication. And then that creates its own bog and quicksand that truthers get in probably for the remainder of their lives. If I had one contribution to this community, one to be remembered by, it would be that the chase of the truth itself, you could spend 25, 30 years on what happened to the side of the Pentagon. It's a unnatural part of reality itself that creates the chase inside the truth community. And it's another bog you have to remove yourself. I'll be back. I'll be back, Bennett. It was almost 20 sneezes in a row. It took a while. Hopefully that I got that out of my system. Sorry. Um, okay, where were we? So it creates, once it sees the reality itself, I don't know, human being could pull this off. Once it sees people going down a certain path, then it lays the confusion breadcrumbs. It lays paths everywhere. It puts you back into the bog, or initially you wade into the bog and the quicksand, and it wants you to spend your whole life in these sorts of truth pursuits, where just when you think you have it figured out, it gives you a little bit more. So obviously, if you always want to step back and look at it from a distance, and if you step back, you can see what the reality system itself is doing. I mean, if you wanted to spend, if the thing, I've heard people give presentations. They've spent years on what happened to the side of the Pentagon and all this stuff. And did you know there was what was that certain type of doomsday plane flying around, and people have pictures of this all white and Norman Mineta testimony, and I mean, it's endless, endless, but that's what it's designed to do. I know that doesn't seem if you're right, if you're sleeping on a nice thick black rug, you're too close to it. It's King Kong's back. You can only see where you're sleeping if you go up into a like a hot air balloon and look down. So it's complicated, but then you have to see that okay, this is by design, and pull yourself out of it, create the half page. And the point is, well, why shouldn't be able to create one sentence? And if I had to do the one sentence now, it would be simply, I don't know exactly how the sentence would go, but the point of the sentence would be to simply, the purpose of this existence, if I had to put it into one sentence, it might not be appropriate to put it in one sentence. If I had to, and this is all I could do, and it wouldn't be like some gigantic run on sentence, is just to come to the realization that this is not the place we ultimately want to be. This place, wherever we are, that's called Earth. Just to come to that realization from a mind, body, spirit, have it sink into your soul and spirit that this is not where I want to be. If I had to, okay, why am I choosing that as the one sentence? This is not where I want to be. Simply because it's kind of like look at what it does and do the opposite. It works so hard and it gets in your face in your business and it works overtime to get you to believe in it, this reality system, to put stock and credence and worry and anxiety. And you don't put worry and anxiety and fear into anything that you're not invested in or you're not a part of or attached to. And it works. It's not even a good way to say it works hard. It's the entire purpose of the whole reality system. It's not like it works hard and then it takes some time off. It's going 24/7, 365, forever and ever, on this place called Earth, wherever that is, whatever that is, to get you to believe in it. And so if I had to boil it down to one sentence, it would be just to come a complete realization that no, I'm not believing in any of it. I'm not putting any of myself into it. This is not where I want to be. Then go kill yourself. No, no. I don't. We're in the body. The body always wants to survive. It's a natural instinct to survive and to live as long as possible. And we always have more things to learn. And we're here for a reason. I'm not going to go kill myself. No, I don't want to. I don't want to die prematurely. But the point is to get yourself into a certain state where death is completely accepted and say, okay, it doesn't matter what your religion is. There's a lot of smart people, a lot of religions, a lot of different belief sets that say we've done this before, we'll do it again, and there's something, no matter what your religion or belief set is, there's something we all can agree on, where who has a better chance at the moment of their death? Somebody, whatever that means, a better chance for what? I don't know. How would I know? It doesn't matter for this point. Somebody that has completely let go of everything and said, I've learned all I can learn here. I've done all I can do. What if there's another aspect of me, higher self? Don't send me back in. What I've done all I can do, but I don't want any part of it. I've detached every bit of it, and it's not the place I want to be. There were some good parts to it. There's some wonderful nature and some wonderful animals and some wonderful relationships with people and pets and things I probably can experience here and certain emotions that maybe I can't anywhere else. And some of the food was good, even though some of the Krispy Kreme donuts were good. And but I've what? This is not. It was fun, but when you get off like a roller coaster ride at Six Flags, you'll be like, that was fun, but you want to go back on? No. You sure? Yeah, I don't want to go back on. So it's not where I want to be. A complete realization of that, if I had to put it into one sentence. So that takes all the bog of the truth community, you narrow it down to a half page. The half page is something structured like the entire reality system is out to be a gigantic lie, deception, and trick. Our job is to see the nature of the trick, and then if I was writing the half page up, which I need to do, and I've done different iterations of it, to see what it's trying to do to us, and to use what it's trying to do to us to have us learn about ourselves. So anyway, I need to do the half page, and the half page is probably more important than the one sentence. But the theme, you've heard me talk about many times, is we never go far enough. And if it can be a half page, why can't it be a one sentence? And then I hear somebody crying out from their bathtub. I hear you. Well, then why can't it be one word? Maybe it can be, or just a sound in the wind. I don't know. Well, maybe you can go too far, but it would be just simply one sentence, a complete realization that going into the moment of death, which is probably the moment of life, this is not where I want to be. So look, okay, if that's not quite resonating with you, look at somebody like my father. All right, I feel I know him, Matt. You've talked about him so much. I've talked about maybe some of these quote bad things. He has a lot of good qualities, of course. He has a lot of good qualities, and I don't mean to. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to my father. He doesn't watch. He wants nothing to do with what I do. He doesn't ask me questions about it. It's just completely hidden from his world, and he'd never see it or anything like that. But I have to use these examples. So look at my father, for example, as the opposite of that one sentence. He does everything in his life to try to put stock and attachment into this reality. This reality system is all he knows, and I don't know how to say it, ever will know, but he's not even trying to expand his mind or his perception outside of this reality system. This whole sense of being, and somebody's yelling at me going, Matt, that's most people. I agree, it is most people. His whole sense of being is worrying that I didn't rent the movie, and some health issues with very serious health issues with his girlfriend, and how he's going to deal with that over the next year or so. And and also this goes to the coveting this world. And remember, the original story I told about my father was talking about, hey, smart people, Dad, believe we're gonna, if you don't do certain things, or it's more than likely, like Buddhism or Hinduism, that you come back. And since he had no religion in his life, or a Christian religion, my family's all Catholic, but Dad wasn't taken, he wasn't taken to the Catholic Church by my grandparents more than the holidays, Easter and Christmas, and a few times here and there. But he doesn't have any sense of religion. So upon death it'll be a form of heaven or anything like that. So when I said to him, a lot of smart people, a lot of religions, billions of people believe you come back. You know what I'm gonna say? He was very excited about that. He was, whoa, really? Maybe, maybe I can, if I pitch a little better, I can get, I can get into the major leagues. And I just say that because before he threw his arm out, he was at Bloomsburg University. He did get, in the I guess it was early 60s. He got a few letters from some minor league clubs that they were going to watch him. So that's a big part of his life. But he was excited about it. So its whole sense of being the point is, I'm sorry to be long-winded, is only based on this place. And we instinctively get a sense, is that what this place is designed to do? Yeah. It's the same as the Jacob Marley chains. Can't see them on you. Constantly creating attachment and rooting to this place. It's all, it's all he wouldn't ever even attempt to think about any other existence or death or the afterlife. And unfortunately, he has no medical issues. Of course, that changes when you have a certain problem or death becomes imminent. Even though he acts at 78, he acts like he. In other words, I'm not saying this properly, and I'm sorry to be long-winded. I probably should wrap it up, but if you put him on a lie detector test, I don't know if he truly believes he will die. I mean, of course, if there was a multiple choice question, will you die? Everybody's going to check yes, but that's completely different than having a complete acceptance of it. The moment I had when I was 23 or 24 years old, half hungover, and we had this, uh, I don't know how many people, a bunch of people in this house on 30th Street in Beach Haven in Long Beach Island. I remember just sitting there, and it hit me for the first time that you're going to die. And it freaked me out. I was freaked out for about 15 minutes, and then I don't know, maybe I was distracted. Just we went off to the beach or something. I don't know, but it absolutely came over me. I don't believe my dad has ever had that moment. If you put him on a lie detector, he doesn't truly believe it. He lives his life and his decisions as if, he doesn't realize he's past the mortality tables. Every day should be precious. So just for him, he'll say, it'll. I don't know what he thinks because if you say to him, you think you're going to live to be 150, he's not going to say yes. But I think the point is he's never had that moment of that I'm going to die, and that changes, your realization, the way you act, the way you plan for the future. I'll give you another example, and then get off my father. He'll always say year after he's a big golfer. That's his retirement. He's a retired Upper Merion High School teacher. He was actually my teacher at Upper Merion for typing class. And he retired 15 years ago, and he golfs. He golfs 5 days a week. And he says, and he watches golf and he loves golf, and that's his exercise. But he'll say, oh, he'll see Pebble Beach, the tour will go back. And he's been saying it for 20 years. He'll say, I've got to see Pebble Beach someday. And okay, when he said it 20 years ago, like, yeah, that might be a worthy goal. You don't want to see the iconic place. And I know it's like, it's really expensive to go out there and play and everything. You have to get on a list, but but then like 5 years later, he'll say it, or he'll say it in a couple years later. He just keeps saying it, and I'm like, well, you're almost 80 years old. What do you mean you want to see Pebble Beach someday? At some point, like the attitude is that there will always be time for it. I'm sorry, I'm being long-winded, but you can understand the attitude versus somebody like the opposite of that. And and I'm not doing a good job describing this, but the way they describe the samurai. Um, a, a, if you've read about the samurai, they were like obsessed with death. They every day, a big part of the day, they thought about death and the afterlife, death, a good death, the honorable. It's the death. It was all of their whole lives, if you're saying that's too morbid, that's too. There's no reason to do that. To focus on death. But I agree. It has to be a better balance. But he is someone, and like most people, if it goes down to that one sentence, a complete realization that this is not where I want to be over the course of all that ever will be. There's no time or any linear time probably outside of this existence. It's just, I don't want to be there anymore. So then you start cutting attachments. You start not giving it any of your attention and energy. The worry goes down, the anxiety goes down, stressful situations go down. And most of us struggle with that. We're in the avatar. The whole reality is designed to stress us out, to bring us fear, anger, all the seven deadly sins. Talk about. Well, if I can, I'm going to put this here so I remember to talk about it. I'll talk about it in a second. I don't want to introduce it now. It's designed for that. And so you're in the avatar, you can't truly get rid of all these emotions. That's part of who we are. So you have to do, I'm a worrier. I really am. But I've done so much better over the past 5 years. But sometimes you have to take physical steps to facilitate where you want to be emotionally. So my big thing right now is simplifying everything. Bootsy, she's had some issues with not going pee-pee in the box, which when when the house is closed up and this humidity, I mean, it starts to stink. And I'll just get out now, guys. I don't want to turn this into a cat video, but I've learned, like, if I could share anything with cats, you put down like trash bags, like she's now using that mostly, and it's a lot better than putting the cat down or whatever having to do. There are always things you can do. In other words, don't think if you have a problem with a cat, it can be solved, it can be overcome. She's going on a trash bag, or like a tarp type thing, mostly. So you can overcome these things. So we're working some things through with Bootsy. And what was the point of me even mentioning that? Um, oh, I know, simplification. So the carpets here are. some of the original carpets. I moved from California here to Pennsylvania in 2002, and some are even older than that. And it's kind of like new shoes. You get down and look at your carpet close up, and it's kind of gross, or you don't really notice it as you're walking on it. So when you buy new shoes, and then you look at your old shoes, you're like, wow, the old shoes were really bad. You don't realize it till you buy the new shoes. So I've cut every single carpet out of the house. Every single carpet I've gotten rid of. And the cats forced me to do that because they were starting to stink. But it was time to do it anyway. And I've just continued on this simplification. And somebody yelling at me saying, Matt, you've got to cut all ties, stop, no anxiety, no worry, no fear. You need to all do that for yourself emotionally and spiritually. Of course, of course, and I think I've done a good job. I have a lot better to do, but a physical like crutch that's helping me with that is just complete simplification. If I pick up some, I don't know, whatever it might be. And it's like, I haven't done anything with this for 2 years. Just give it to the Goodwill, get rid of it. Just constantly looking, have this flower pot sitting on the side of my house. It just, it would be nice if I ever cleaned it up and, put some flowers in it or some, vincas or whatever. But I just don't do anything with it. It's like, you know what? Out of here. And that's what I'm doing now. So it is. In an inefficient roundabout way. Some spider right here? Yeah, some spider's luring itself down on my hand right now. I don't know where it came from. There it goes back up. I know you can't see, it's tiny. In a roundabout way, it's in a really pathetic first step. It is just me in a desperate effort to cut ties, to detach, and that can't go on forever. I have to do more work emotionally, spiritually, of course, and how much stuff can you throw out? But it's just a symptom of what I'm going through, and I think of many of you, I bet, would be in a similar ballpark. If you're not throwing stuff out, you're cutting ties and you're doing things in that same manner, emotionally or spiritually. So it gets back to the one sentence, just the realization that this is not where I want to be. Taking that into the moment of what here is called death, and if somebody, most people would be like my father, would have tremendous fear, anxiety, regrets, maybe even something that seems completely pathetic to us, but covet and miss the material existence, miss the materialism. How many people somewhat approaching death would say, I'm going to miss my car? I mean, that's unfathomable to us, but we want to talk about trying to make ties with it or announcing that you're just in love with it going into your death. See, this is where the channels that talk about the potential tricks after death and the Saturn Moon Matrix, and you want to get out, but you go into the light, and guys, those that it's not, we've been conditioned. You understand overall how well this truth community has been played in so many facets. I could just, if somebody came to me and said, Matt, your channel can only be talking about how the truth community has been used and played. There's enough material and things to work through for this channel to go on for 10 more years. If that was the only thing that I'm allowed to talk about. And the one area is definitely, we've all been conditioned, don't go into the light. Now, how many people are rising up out of their bathtub? I hear you. Okay, we don't, the point is you don't know. Okay, we don't know. And maybe that is part of the trick. I'm not taking the other side. I'm not saying it's not, and Matt's saying to go into the light. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that one of the things I'm good at is going back to 100,000 feet and looking down and looking at trends. And some trends become unnatural. And if you've been looking at this stuff as long as me, over and over and over and over and over and over again, you get beaten with, don't go into the light at the moment of death. Again, don't take my words out of context. Could it be part of the trick? Of course it could be. Could that Voyager, Star Trek Voyager, the Archonic being comes through the light to get Janeway to go through it? Could that be literal? Yeah, it could be. But I'm just saying, be careful of how we're played. How many times have we heard that? Right? You're all shaking your head. Yeah, yeah, we've heard over and over. Don't. But then people start parroting it without knowing what they're talking about. If you've had, here he comes. If you've had a near-death, where is he coming from? Here he goes back up. If you have a near-death experience, I know you can't see it, and he's hallucinating. No, there's a little tiny spider there. I couldn't even see it except I'm looking out the window, and this little dot appears in front of my face. Maybe he's here to distract me because I'm going into the light. If you've had a major out of body or near death, or you can astral travel like crazy, I mean, you're one of these people, then you know what you're talking about. But what I'm saying is a lot of people, they don't know what they're talking about. They just parrot it. They'll just say, they'll make a comment, oh, you don't want to go into the light. And you say, well, how do you, have you had the near death experience? They're just getting it from what they've heard. And it's, again, guys, we don't know. But the point of me even bringing this up is much more important. You see, this is the big point here. I'm sorry to get bogged down. If you've done everything you can do here in this existence, spiritual bodybuilding, cut ties, cut attachment, made it very clear, I don't, the one sentence, I don't want any more of this place, or if I if I had to choose, I forget even how I put the sentence, I choose not to be here. I No more anxiety, no more worry, no more worrying about what this world thinks about me. You've done everything you can do over a 20-year period or however long. You take that into death. That's not going to translate in any way after all that work we did here. This is not a training ground in any way, to a learning experience or a spiritual leveling up. I mean, you'll just then die, and it'll all you've done. See, this doesn't. Of course, you'll see how this doesn't fly with me, and it probably won't fly with you. All you've done in life doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's just going to be about, oh, now here's the big, should I go into the light or not? Well, the truth community's told me my whole life not to, but there's family and friends in there, and it feels good, and I don't know, So so everything you've done in life is not going to matter. So I don't buy that. Don't buy that one bit. It's like a bodybuilder going into the Mr. Olympia, saying, what the training they've done for years and years, and in the gym and squats, one more, push it, it doesn't matter. So one bodybuilder went to the Mr. Olympia having done nothing, nothing. He somehow, I guess maybe this bodybuilder qualified because he'd placed in the top five or whatever. Just showed up, humongous gut, out of shape, high cholesterol. Which I'm going to talk about that. That's the most fraudulent thing ever pushed in. But I don't even I can't even say that. What'll happen to the video. Bootsy's here screaming for more food. No, Bootsy. So he just shows up for the Mr. Olympia, fat, and I didn't. We don't. You don't need to do anything to win the Olympia. Just shows up. Well, no. See, these bodybuilders have trained. Their diet is perfect. Their salt to water ratio is perfect. They're in perfect shape. Maybe the bodybuilding isn't the greatest thing. 'Cause Matt used an example that's the ultimate attachment and covet to the avatar and attachment to this world, maybe, but maybe that's why I used it. The training matters. All right, the training matters. So if you do everything you can do in this life, and then you get into the experience of, oh, here we go. It's exactly like they said, go into the light or not. I think I or anybody that used this world for what I think it should be used for will be in a much better situation. Well, how will that translate, Matt, to if there's a light to go in or not? I don't know. I don't know. To me, my belief is that you can get into a state where if you can see through the tricks here, why wouldn't you be able to see through the tricks there? Train in the gym here translates there. Why would isn't that the as above, potentially the as above, so below? So of course it would translate. Or you just get into a state where even if there are archonic beings, they're like, oh boy, this one's unique. This one, what are we going to do with this one? Well, nothing we can do. Let him go. I don't know. But you see what I'm saying? So, somebody like look at again, the opposite would be my father. And if they're, I don't, again, we've heard too many of these stories. Who knows what happens after death? But always play out the same story. The archonic being comes down and say to my dad, "It's pretty good down there, right?" "Yeah, it was pretty good. Food was good. The dated a few high school cheerleaders. Would you like to do it again? We, what can you guarantee me a little better athletic career? We'll see what we can do." It's like somebody that's McDonald's loving it. Is that where that comes from? I'm loving it. Excuse me. Boy, I've never seen him cough and sneeze more. Where is he going now? Um, so you understand the main point. I'll wrap it up. Is of course it's isn't it so obvious? This is the gym, the training ground, this life, and it absolutely is going to translate into death. I understand this isn't your well, I don't want to bring any religions into it. These are my general beliefs, and they are not in any way associated with any specific religion. So, guys, thanks for listening, and I'll watch very closely as to what Spike is up to, and if Spike, I'm sure there'll be another story. He's going to put this in or that in, and whatever it will be. Of course, there will be no breakthrough win for the truth community. It'll be Goldilocks, just enough to get certain people that are gullible inside the truth community to fall for it, and not enough at all, of course, to ever convince Tony or your Tony that the world is as we crazy say it is. Thanks for listening. Be back in touch on YouTube and have a couple things I'm working for Free Voice as well for this weekend coming up. Thanks.